Your prediction of a major AWS outage in 2024 reminds me a lot of the predictions that were made late 2023 when Elon Musk bought Twitter and laid off something like 70% of the company. And the predictions, which I was pretty much like, makes sense to me, was like, there will be a major Twitter failure, operational, technical, operating at scale. Like Twitter will be down and gone soon, sometime this year. And I mean, it hasn't been hiccup free by any means. There have been outages and stuff, but on the whole, it seems like it's going okay over there in terms of twitter.com and the APIs, or x.com now. I don't know. Mine's still twitter.com, but it says X.
It redirects. Yeah.
They haven't like fully done all the redirects, but yes, the platform is called X. Curious, like, and then a lot of the people that made the predictions like, well, these things take time, and so eventually it will fail. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no insider knowledge. I'm curious, just from a guy who understands systems at scale better than I do. What's your take on that? Like, were they just way over bloated in terms of headcount, people? They didn't need all those people. You could run it on a skeleton crew, and that's what they're doing. Have there been outages that I don't know about, like major ones that would make these predictions true? Is it just is a matter of time? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I have no insider knowledge, but I had friends that joined teams at Twitter and were eventually let go. And I do know that they got rid of a lot of features and products as part of this take. I ran a community at Twitter when it was twitter.com. They had communities, and I had one for the tech jobs. And I was just like, hey, let's just start a community on Twitter for people to find tech jobs. I don't run it anymore. It doesn't really, I think it might exist. I don't know. It's not in the menu anymore, but they like got rid of that. Spaces is still around, but pretty much everything else that I know they were working on just went away, including all of their like safety and moderation teams. Right. And so by removing some of those things, like that's a lot of people. Right. To do new products, to build new things. I also know the operations side of things did take a hit. A lot of times, like things do run for a long, long time. I was like, I have servers that I used to maintain that were on for years. Right? Like we never had to touch them. Like the website worked. Once you get it working, the port's open, I'm okay. And I can't change it. I can't scale up. I can't do new things, but it works and it's there. And I know that through a lot of the API changes of like, you have to pay for access. A lot of the like public visibility for tweets were turned off for a while. There's a lot of things that changed that reduced the amount of just API calls and tools that we're using.
Certainly public API would be a huge reduction in overhead, right? Like,
right. I just saw on New Year's Eve, right? The like safety, like Twitter account or like the emergency response Twitter account, like lost its API access. It was like, oh, we used all of our credits. Like we're done. Like, you can reduce your load by a lot and just say like, hey, we're just going to cut back on a lot of this stuff. And maybe that was, just something that you could turn off some servers. Maybe you could scale down because if your volume of calls goes from, 100 million to 100,000, like guess what? Like you can turn off a good portion of your servers or just not really worry about it anymore. It's just like, we'll just scale down. We're fine. We don't need to make changes to scale things, and we're not going to hit new scaling limits because Twitter already was hitting those limits over and over again. Because there's these stages as you run software where it's like, hey, our Postgres database was fine with just a single replica. And now at some point we need 3 because we hit a scaling limit. And if you've made it to that scaling limit, you're like, okay, we already have the 3 replicas. Like this is going to last for a long time. We don't need to worry about storage because our volume isn't increasing as much. You just keep hitting those stages over and over again. And at a like ops side of things, like when you're running the services, you can project out maybe a year. If the growth is stable here, we can go until here. And then at some point we need to switch to something else. And you're constantly in that like replatforming or just redoing your infrastructure to make sure you can hit the next level of scale. Cause you can't predict what areas are going to necessarily be the next bottleneck. But if you remove a lot of those scaling requirements, like just things run for a long time. Like Nginx is really powerful. Like Disney Plus, the front end of Disney Plus, when I was there was just like a few Nginx boxes. I was amazed at how much you could do with like a really